Come on in, pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, gang, and welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch, brought to you by, obviously enough, GamingGang.com, of which I happen to be the founder and editor-in-chief. So, welcome aboard, everyone. Tonight is Thursday, May 21st, 2026. This is live stream 1326. 26s are wild. If you're not overly familiar with the show, let me point out it's super casual around here. Just hanging out, talking about the latest in tabletop role-playing game news. And then I'll normally pontificate about a topic related to our hobby, which I shall be doing tonight. More on that in just a moment. But of course, we're just hanging out, having a good time. We are certainly not engaged in rocket surgery or anything along those lines. Now, of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit GamingGang.com for all latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are not going to find here on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. And then, of course, because this is a live show, there is chat available. Now, you must be a subscriber to the channel for at least an hour before you can take part in chat. But if you check off that box and you want to say howdy, maybe you got a question, a comment, by all means, chime in. I'll do my absolute best to respond. First out the gate tonight is Danny Gable. The Madman is with us, as is Semper Buffo, Keithulhu, Darkwan, and I think that's it for the moment in chat. Oh, we might have the lovely and talented Miss Sarah D lurking in the shadows as another of our chat moderators alongside the Madman. So if she is hanging with the gang tonight, welcome aboard. So it's Thursday. Lots cooking. Tonight, I am actually going to discuss what is emergent gameplay or emergent play in role-playing games? Because I think there's some misconception of what entails emergent gameplay. And not to the point where people can't decide what OSR stands for, but still, I think some people think that you have to have certain things in place for emergent gameplay, which really isn't the case. But we will discuss that in just a bit after we tackle the news. I see Shazama85 is on with us as well, and I see Laconic Lane has also joined us in chat. All right, so let's jump right on into the news, because there's a revised edition of the Traveler's Central Supply Catalog Update 2023. Say that 5 times fast. It is now out in print. I've got the lowdown from Mongoose Publishing. Welcome to the Central Supply Catalog Update 2023. This book contains all the equipment travelers will want, need, or wish they had as they cross the galaxy. From entertainment products to laser cannons, from cameras to powered armor, the Central Supply Catalog Update 2023 has combed the galaxy for items suited to the most discerning traveler. With this book, you'll have everything needed to entertain the local ambassador, survive a month or years in the wilderness, or wage a planetary war. New additions to the Central Supply Catalog Update 2023 include more advanced computers, prototech, and rules to bring fabricators into a campaign, allowing travelers to make what they cannot buy. Procure new gear on the black market and profit from guns, armor, and ammunition smuggled past starport authorities. The Central Supply Catalog Update 2023. Don't leave the starport without it. The over 150-page hardcover with PDF carries an MSRP of $49.99. You can get the PDF over at DriveThru RPG. I don't know if they have updated the PDF yet, but it is normally $29.99. So you might be wondering, what have they revised? To my understanding, there were some errors. So there was some errata, and I believe that has been cleaned up. That is it. There are no additional entries or anything like that. As far as I understand, this is, except for the errata, it is exactly the same as the previous release, and it does have a new cover. So I'll mention that too. Kathy Evans has joined us in chat. Welcome back. Moving right along, now landing in stores is Horrors of the Secret War for Achtung Cthulhu 2D20. I've got the latest from Modiphius Entertainment. There are things that it were better mankind never knew about. Achtung Cthulhu already contains a huge variety of malign mythos monstrosities, terrors, and abominations, but this new grimoire of terror expands on them even further. It also features a brand new section devoted to invidious cults and infernal sects, detailing the malevolent followers of the old ones. Inside Horrors of the Secret War, you'll discover a new collection of animals, which can be used as familiars, companions, and even mounts. Perhaps your agents have always wanted a pet monkey, or to terrify their enemies by charging into battle on a war elephant. The Creatures of Weird Science and Sinister Sorcery section details new individuals, units, and entities directly involved in the Secret War. Some, like Porkchop or Headless Harry, are allies from Section M and Majestic, but others, like Black Sun's Zubenjager and Nachtwolf's fearsome Juggernaut, make powerful new adversaries. The Horrors and Monstrosities section presents a selection of creatures that threaten both body and soul. This includes classic mythos creations like Joels or Spiders of Lang, plus a range created exclusively for this bestiary, like the Loathsome Sand Dweller or the Fiery Seed of Kolvalasam. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing all of these. Well, not all of them, but probably mispronounced that. This tome of terror concludes with a sanity-challenging section of Elder Gods, Outer Gods, and Great Old Ones. A new pantheon of terrifying deities that strike trepidation into even the stoutest of hearts. Horrors of the Secret War also features invidious cults and infernal sects, a chapter showcasing brand new occult organizations to bring further intrigue and added depth to your games. Features pre-made cults from across the globe, plus rules for creating your own cult from scratch, a ready-made cult headquarters, and map and adventure seeds for anti-cult missions. The 100-page softcover features over 75 new creatures, classic Cthulhu creatures like the Hunting Horror, many new and unique monsters and monstrosities, as well as a wealth of new cults who worship the deities of the mythos and those who oppose them, and rules for generating a unique cult of your own, plus a full-color, high-quality map and mission seeds. Now, of course, this does require Achtung Cthulhu 2D20's core books in order to run. The 100-page softcover with PDF is currently available at the sale price of $24. It's normally $47.99. I think part of it has to do with the spring sale, and part of it has to do with something that's just been mentioned in chat. We're going to talk about in just a moment. If you want to grab the PDF, you can do so over at DriveThru RPG. for $13.50. All right, let's see. Little Britain is with us tonight. Welcome. And let's see. Mark Hawkswell is also hanging with the gang. Very nice. And I guess Little Britain's game got canceled. Sorry to hear that. Maybe next time. But hey, at least you got something to do. You can hang out with us. So yes, there's the spring sale going on over at Modiphius Entertainment's website. And this week they did announce they were pausing Achtung Cthulhu. I was like, okay. Like, all right. So holding off on that, I guess. Well, I got to say, there is a good amount of content out there. I think this is supplement 13, something along those lines. It's on the cover. So, and of course, we've also had PDF adventures and some PDF only releases. I like the concept of Achtung Cthulhu. Here's the issue that I've got, and this goes with any sort of role-playing game that is historically based upon a conflict. So as an example, we've talked about this a little bit before, that as long if you're not willing to change the results of that conflict, then the actions that your player characters take in those adventures really don't mean much at all. So there's it's the secret war, but no matter what, the D-Day invasion comes off as planned, right? There isn't any change there. It's still D-Day. The Battle of the Bulge, I know that was tackled in one of the supplements for Achtung Cthulhu 2D20. Same thing. It's going to have the same results. So to me, I think it kind of, I would have to say, I think it deflates the game a little bit. When it's like, well, we know what's going to happen. We know the outcome of this conflict or battle or war, whatever. But anyway, so I don't know why they put a pin in Achtung Cthulhu at the moment. Might be that they just are having more success with other lines, such as, say, I don't know, Fallout, Star Trek Adventures. Maybe they want to focus their resources on those, because this isn't an IP that they've licensed out. This is Modiphius Entertainment's own line. In fact, it was, amazingly enough, many of you may not know this, it was an Achtung Cthulhu adventure for Call of Cthulhu, because that's what the first edition of Achtung Cthulhu was statted for. The first Modiphius Entertainment release was an Achtung Cthulhu adventure. Yes. Which I reviewed, and I thought was all right. Shazam85 says they had posted earlier that they had watched yesterday's show. They never picked up anything from Chaosium. So they're looking into those down the road. Right now they're looking at DM's Guild for basic expert rules, adventures, and accessories to print on demand. Well, I mean, if that's the case, I don't know why you'd be chasing Chaosium stuff later on. Just being honest. So, I mean, we do have plenty of folks hanging out in chat right now who have a lot of role-playing games that they've bought over the years that have never seen the light of a game table. So, and yes, as Little Britain points out, Chaosium is one of the very first role-playing game companies. Yes, in fact, it was originally called The Chaosium. How's about that? All right, moving right along. Now available in print and PDF for either 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons or Pathfinder 2nd edition from Roll for Combat is Battlezoo Ancestry's Living Legends. Here's the scoop. Now you can play as legendary monsters from classic D&D and Pathfinder. Dive into over 230 pages of play options, lore, backgrounds, and amazing illustrations to expand your games in amazing and unique ways. This works with any D&D 5e or Pathfinder 2nd edition game. Become fantastic creatures, 14 of them, in fact, including angels, arboreals, cerebrophages, I believe is how I should probably be pronouncing that. Devils, evil eyes, fusions, gargoyles, giants, golemborn, lamias, psychopomps, sphinxes, swarmbloods, and were creatures. This also includes hundreds of digital tokens and illustrations that would work with any virtual tabletop. In-depth information about each classic creature's culture, society, and history are included. There are thousands of unique options and custom rules to build exciting characters for players and game masters. So immerse yourself in 14 new ancestries and bring out the legendary creature inside you. You can play the following new ancestries / species / heritages, however it's called. You get the angel. Transform into a messenger of the heavens, choose your own path, and master your divine powers. Become a fusion of multiple characters. Work together with your friends and combine powers for over-the-top combos. Evil eyes. Transform into a colossal eye, unleash eye beams, and inflict harm on your adversaries with your cursed gaze. Sphinxes. Become a mythical leonine riddler. Discover the world's secrets and mysteries and bedevil your foes with riddles. Riddle me this, Batman. You can become a gargoyle, become a warrior of the night with the appearance of a statue. Disguise yourself as an ordinary statue and protect what is precious to you. We've got were creatures. Transform into an animal or hybrid when the moon is full. Balance your humanoid and bestial natures and unlock the power of the beast within. Become a lamia with a lion or snake body. Escape the fate of an ancient curse and forge your destiny. Become a larger-than-life giant. Grow in size as you gain power and explore the special powers of your giant heritage. Become golemborn and be a construct who miraculously came to life. Balance your biological and mechanical nature and enhance your golem powers. Become many as one with the swarm blood. With a swarm in your blood, commune with the tiny creatures within you and transform parts of yourself into a living swarm. Become a psychopomp. Become a guide of the dead. Battle the undead scourge and maintain the cycle of souls. You can also become a cerebrophage or cerebrophage by becoming a symbiotic nautilus human hybrid. Eat brains to gain knowledge and learn powerful psychic magic. Become a living tree as an arboreal. Grow into a powerful force of nature and command natural magic. And of course, you can become a hell spawn by being a devil. Destroy your contract and seize your future. And embrace, reject, or exploit your diabolical powers. The 230-page hardcover in the flavor of your choosing with PDF. I do think between the two editions, there's probably a little different page count. But regardless, whichever one you want to get with PDF carries an MSRP of $59.99. If you just want to grab a PDF, you can do so for $59.99. And once again, I do believe that you will receive over 400 virtual tabletop tokens with your order. So there you got that. Let's see. We have got Tessie Trekkie popping on in. Retired on a bike has also joined us in chat. So chat is rocking and rolling. I don't think I said hello to Stray Kismet. So I will say howdy to them also. Little Britain said they played probably 90% of the titles that they own, struggling to think of titles they haven't actually played. Maybe Stormbringer. But, and again, they also point out they've got maybe 30 game systems. That's quite a lot. I'd say that's a good number. So, Keith Ulu says, unleash I-beams. That would hurt a lot. Or unleash high beams. I see Clantos is with us once again. Thank you kindly. All right, moving right along. Hitting stores from Catalyst Game Labs is the latest hotspot supplement for Battletech. I've got the deets on Draconis Reach. Enter the Draconis Reach with this comprehensive campaign guide to some of the hottest combat zones in the Ill Clan era. Refining the campaign system from hotspot hinterlands, this sourcebook offers all the rules and contracts any unit needs for their ongoing Battletech games. Choose the fight for the Draconis Combine or the Federated Suns in the war for control of the Reach. Defend a Sea Fox merchant in a corporate trial by combat, or discover the latest innovations in biomedical technology and survive. New rewards and other opportunities are available for successful commanders. Bring the excitement of the Ill Clan era to your Battletech campaign with this sourcebook, which includes complete campaign rules built out of the Battletech Mercenaries box set, as well as contracts and game hooks for battles throughout the Reach. Now, this is designed for use with Battletech, not Battletechs. Battletech Total Warfare, as well as Battletech Alpha Strike. The 210-page hardcover with PDF carries an MSRP of $49.99. If you want to just grab the PDF alone, you can do so over at Drive-Thru RPG for $19.99. So, new Battletech action. I wouldn't mind getting back into Battletech. I would, I don't know if I would pick up the starter set. Because if I remember right, doesn't that only have like 2 or 4 miniatures? I could have swore the starter box or beginner box or whatever they call it. I would prefer to get a few more miniatures than that. I bet you my nephew Cameron would dig Battletech. I'll have to run it by him one of these days. All right, on to our final news piece. Following a successful Kickstarter run, 8-Legged Entertainment has released The Widow's Web, Trials of the Drow in PDF. And here's the skinny. Every 100 years in the umbral drow city of Carrick Mars, the 8 ruling houses send a champion into the Widow's Web, a deadly labyrinth filled with monsters, traps, puzzles, and betrayal. The winner will rule the city for the next century. The losers will die horrible deaths, victims of the web's unforgiving trials. The Widow's Web is an elimination-style tournament for 8th level characters that uses modified 5th edition rules and supports 4 to 8 players. But it's much more than just a battle royale. It forces the champions to balance teamwork and treachery as they struggle to overcome the devious challenges laid before them by their dark goddess, Melarachne, the Mother Spider. The book contains 3 standalone adventures. Each one plunges the champions into an unforgiving series of encounters that will test their abilities, strain their alliances, and place them in situations unlike anything they have faced before. It also provides the special rules needed to run each web, along with new creatures, new magic items, and detailed lore that explores the culture and city of Carrick Mars. The 316-page PDF is available right now over at DriveThruRPG for $36. And the fine folks over at Eight-Legged Entertainment were kind enough to send me a PDF of this release, but I don't review PDFs, so sorry to say, I might see if Sammy wants to check this out and do a review. Yeah. Very nice. Very nice. All righty. So, what should we do for our giveaway tonight? I wonder. Let's see. I'll tell you what. Since it was a bit of our topic of discussion here, I will give away a copy of Achtung Cthulhu 2D20 Horrors of the Secret War to a lucky viewer. This one's going to be for the live crew here. I just have to come up with a trivia question to hit you up with. I'll come up with something. But in the meantime, I'm kind of curious how many of you out there saw the finale to The Boys. Yes, we are going to stay spoiler free. I was talking with Elliot today, and he hasn't started watching the 5th season. And I had mentioned to him that I don't get what it is with all of these shows that kind of take the world by storm, or at least take the US by storm. And they're like multiple seasons, and they just can't stick the landing. I will say that wasn't the worst final season or final episode of a series. I think we can still kind of reserve that for Game of Thrones. But interestingly enough, I had already read the Boys comics years and years ago, so I knew the storyline. And funny enough, I don't think they devoted enough time to the final bit of what was going on. Like I said, I'm going to stay spoiler free for those of you who have not seen it, have not watched it yet. So Straight Kismet says, Billy Butcher becomes a real boy? I told you no spoilers, man. The hell? W. Forge asked, did they become men? Yep, they become the men. That's the new series. It's going to start on Prime next year. I thought it was all right. I thought it was better than I was expecting. But it was weird. This past season, there were points where it felt like some of the episodes were just dragging. It was kind of like just filler. And I thought to myself, why didn't you just use that time with the actual stuff that happens at the end of the comic, which they wrap up with in the show? But another thing we were talking about was how the comic books are even more over the top than the series. And that this season, The Boys is always, there's always something that's just like, wow, did you really have to go there? So Ravenclaw says The Boys at least stuck the landing. Now, see, I disagree. I don't think it stuck the landing. I think it did a better job than other shows like Stranger Things and Game of Thrones but I think they missed it. And I guess I would have to say you probably need to be familiar with the comic. If you aren't familiar with the comic book, then you probably would think they did a better job wrapping up the show. Like I said, it wasn't terrible. It wasn't bad. I liked it. But yeah, some of the stuff, it's kind of like, and this is previous seasons too. It was like, huh, man, just little too over the top, little too edgelord on some things. Where it's kind of like, come on, really? You don't have to give me so much detail with somebody being ripped in half. Ravenclaw points out you're never gonna honestly portray a Garth Ennis comic on TV. If it's a streamer or cable, I think you could. Granted, I didn't watch all of Preacher. I watched the first season of that. And yeah, there were things in that they were not really. So W Ford says, I always get a little surprised when I see Paul Reiser showing up in these genre shows like Stranger Things as well. So it's kind of funny because the Paul Reiser character is supposed to be in the comic. He's like a takeoff of Stan Lee, which you wouldn't get in the show. But yeah, I was just kind of curious. Those of you who watched the finale, were you pleased by it? Were you disappointed in it? Were you sitting there and you're going, Ravenclaw said, read The Crossed by Garth Ennis and get back to me. Is that like a Jesus Christ comic? I know it's not like Battle Pope. Forget who the hell did Battle Pope. That was a crazy ass comic book back in the day. It was from an indie, of course. So, anyway, let's see. All right, so I'm trying to come up with a trivia question. I got it. But first, I wrapped up the news tonight. Of course, I did mention TTRPG a few times. Don't forget, the Gaming Gang, thus the Dispatch, is affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you're going to stop by, say, I don't know, TTRPG, Storyteller's Vault, Wargame Vault, Dungeon Masters Guild, any of the numerous One Bookshelf sites, please stop by thegaminggang.com first. Click on one of our banners. That way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get 5% of most of those sales as a commission. And all those commissions really do add up, help keep thegaminggang.com around. Also, if you like the video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. If you are watching live and taking part in chat, hit those little hearts or hundreds or whatever. Show a little engagement that way. And if you are watching on a mobile device, feel free to sprinkle some hype points if you got any left on the video as well, because every little bit helps gets the channel out in front of people. You know how it goes. Then, of course, if you like the Gaming Gang, if you dig the channel, if you find the outlet to be a valuable resource, hell, if you just like what we do, there are a couple of other ways that you can support the outlet. First, by making a one-time donation by way of PayPal. Hell, you can buy me a 2-liter bottle of soda. What is that, a V in it? And you can become a monthly member of our Patreon. You'll find links in the show notes. Also in those show notes, you're going to find an invite link to our Discord server. Absolutely free to sign up. So be sure to hang with the gang over on Discord. All right. So, first person to get me the correct answer for this trivia question will win a copy of Achtung Cthulhu, Horrors of the Secret War in PDF. And the trivia question is going to be World War II related. So, what was the item that the Allies set? God, I'm trying to remember if they were Norwegians. Okay. So there was an item that the Third Reich was utilizing in their research to create an atomic bomb, and the Allies sent a mission to destroy that, which they did. Sadly, I think most of the operatives died in that. So what was the item that the Third Reich, the scientists, were utilizing that got their access was destroyed? So think about it. First person who gets it correct wins that PDF. And in the meantime, I think it's time for a brief intermission.
It's intermission time, folks. Time out for a delicious snack in our sparkling refreshment building. Every item a fresh, appetizing taste treat.
Visit our snack bar and treat yourself to some delicious Castleberry's pit-cooked barbecue sandwiches. Cook the Castleberry way, slowly over open pits of glowing charcoal, then seasoned with a sauce that's zesty, yet delightfully mild to please the entire family. Also at the snack bar, you'll find popcorn and soft drinks and candy and French fries to go with your Castleberry's barbecue sandwiches. There's plenty of time before the movie starts, so visit our snack bar right now for Castleberry's pit-cooked barbecue sandwiches.
I float through the air with the greatest of ease, with or without the flying trapeze. My act is so great gravity I defy, 'cause I drink T-O-D-D-Y.
Yes, Toddy, the chocolate malt in a can.
Get it, everybody. It's time to drink your chocolate toddy.
Mmm, delicious.
Your dungeon master has placed you in a dreadfully precarious position. You're playing the most phenomenal game ever created. Your skin grows cold from your first glimpse of the enormous beast. It's a product of your imagination. Survival depends on a quick, decisive move. Your choices are limited. Stand and fight, or run. Use your lightning bolt. Victory is yours.
Win the treasure.
TSR Hobbies, Dungeons & Dragons game. Products of your imagination.
Rock-a-bye, baby, in your cradle so fluffy. I can sleep, too, 'cause I drink Wilkins decaffeinated coffee.
Listen now of a time long past, when sorcery thrived and wild adventure was forever in the offing. A deadly sorcerer is called out of nightmare by a ruthless king driven into evil. And a mystical sword is forged for a mighty warrior who rises out of legend to topple a kingdom. The Sword and the Sorcerer.
I myself raised Usher from the dead. Little did I know what I let loose upon the world. Tell us where he is and save us all. Are you
Want me to snatch your brother from the king's dungeons for one night with you? That's a slim bounty for such a task.
Why, you bastard!
3 hours' time. One man will control the entire civilized world.
Cromwell's power, Cromwell's bride, and Cromwell's flesh! Tell me more!
A titanic struggle between good and evil that determines the fate of an entire dynasty. Dungeons and dragons, serpents and splendor, wizards and witches, danger and desire. And the mightiest of all heroes, in the greatest of all adventures.
I just dislike that blade that goes shooting off with the sword. I don't know. I don't know if it's just me or what. It's like kind of stupid, And yes, the question was, is this a repeat trailer? Yeah, I have about 250 brief intermissions that I put together over the years. So I do recycle them from time to time. Usually you can tell how busy I have been that day if you get a rerun of a brief intermission. But then again, not everybody watches every show, so it isn't always, necessarily going to be something that maybe you've never seen it before. Well, maybe other people have. Anyway, but yes, that was a repeat of a brief intermission. Got a few more folks who popped on into chat. Our good friend of the show, Agile Monk, is with us. Let's see, who else do we have popping on in? Miss Sarah D is popped on by our other chat moderator. Yes. And let's see, I think I've said hello to everyone. Oh, no. Wasn't it? It's Matthew. I think they said, just call him Matthew. They've popped on in as well. So welcome, everybody. I should also mention during the live shows, I always like to give a shout out, give a thank you to those out there who are members of our monthly Patreon. So tip of the cap, and thanks to Ben Oathwaite, Caval, Kevin R. Smith, Talzek, Peaceful Porcupine, Sean O'Donnell, Herman Letman, Gustavo Cavalho, Kevin King, Game Cat, RPG Munch, Tier 2 DM, Far Adrift, Pete Stracklich, The Tabletop Scholar, Dan Webb, Tessie Trekkie, Agile Monk, The Madman, and Flint Fireforge. Thank you all very kindly for being members of the Patreon. Very cool. Very cool. I'm trying to find something. There we go. So tonight's topic, we're going to talk about emergent play, or sometimes it's referred to as emergent gameplay. It just doesn't sound right if you say, well, emergent gameplay in role-playing games. A little too much repetitiveness with the game part. So I tend to say emergent play in role-playing games. And as I opened up the show, I had mentioned that I sometimes think that there's a little confusion in what emergent play is and what it is not, and that you need to have certain things in place to experience emergent play. So that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to discuss emergent play. So I guess Sarah D was out fighting crime. So that's why she was late. So Miss Sarah D also points out they will not be hanging out next week. They've just had enough of this shit and they need a break from this show. Having cataract surgery. Hopefully, things go very nicely with that. My mom has eye issues. She has to go every month for, what do they call it? Wet MD or some weird, to get a shot. Trust me, I know. I don't know exactly what it is, but I know all about it because I'm the one who usually has to drive her to it. So, anywho, but Retired on the Bike says, I wasn't complaining. At my age, you never know if you've seen it or not. I wasn't insinuating you were complaining, but because I have replayed stuff. Nowadays, it's gotten to the point where I might do one new brief intermission for the week. Oh, something else I should mention next week. There will not be a show on Tuesday. So I may be going out of town for a couple of days just to screw around. So going to the University of Iowa, says Miss Sarah D. So they went and saw a cataract specialist there who looked into her eye and said, I've never seen that before. She loves being special. All right, so let's talk about emergent play. So I'm a big fan of emergent play. Some folks out there think that emergent play is only something like old school Renaissance role-playing games provide. That is absolutely not the case. You can have emergent gameplay in any sort of game. It could be modern D&D. It could be Modern Traveler. It could be, Basic Expert. It could be Old School Essentials. Does not matter. So emergent gameplay is not plotted, is essentially what they're looking at. Stray Kismet says the cataract specialist saw glitter from that damn banhammer. So anyway. So with most modern role-playing games and modern role-playing adventures, they tend to be plotted out. And we see more and more games adopting like scene-based role-playing. You could still have scene-based role-playing that has emergent gameplay. Emergent gameplay is also a term that's used in video games. So essentially what emergent gameplay is that the actual actions of the players matter as far as the consequences and what ends up happening as far as the challenges they face and so forth. So same thing with video games where it's not necessarily a programmed response or a programmed reaction. It is something that the program is going to basically take into effect, the maybe random number generation, as well as whatever action that the character is taking in the game in order to calculate something that is relatively random or could be relatively random. So it's not plotted out. And in modern tabletop role-playing games, the vast majority of adventures that get published for, say, 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons do not focus on emergent gameplay. It is all plotted out. There is a storyline. It runs from point A to point B to point C, point D, and so forth. And while the player character's actions can have some effect peripherally on the adventure or campaign does not rely upon the actions of the players and the player characters. So I'll give you a great example. Let's say it's a fantasy role-playing game, and in a modern RPG, and not all of them are like this, but many of them are. So let's say you're first level characters and you're exploring some cavern system and you encounter 20 kobolds, and the kobolds are harvesting some sort of moss, that grows on the rocks, whatever, in the cavern, right? Modern role-playing games will more than likely just have the kobolds attack. It'd be like, oh, okay, the kobolds attack, and you might luck out and actually get some information about some tactics that the kobolds might utilize. More often than not, you're not going to get anything. It's just going to be, oh, okay, well, when the characters appear in the cavern, the kobolds attack. And maybe when they lose 7 or 8 kobolds, then they run away. That's kind of, the modern approach to a set piece or an encounter, where no matter what the player characters do, those kobolds are going to attack as soon as they notice the player characters. So combat is going to ensue. And then once the kobolds lose 7 or 8 of their compatriots, they're going to skedaddle. And maybe they're going to go and run off to warn these gnolls, who are kind of the rulers of this group, right? And of course, you'd be sitting there, if it was like Dungeons and Dragons, or if it was Pathfinder, you'd be sitting there going, gnolls? Why would gnolls have anything to do with kobolds? I mean, kobolds are reptilian. Gnolls are kind of like, hyena sort of creatures, right? But the big clue would be if you were doing like old school, because remember, old school kobolds are dog-like. Although I like the reptilian kobolds better, but still kind of funny how they changed. Okay, so there you go. So that's kind of the modern approach to a encounter like that is, okay, kobolds are going to just automatically attack. Once they take so many losses, they skedaddle, they flee, and they're going to go warn the gnolls. In a game that's aimed more at emergent play, here would be the situation probably laid out in the adventure. And that would be that it is a cavern, and the kobolds are basically collecting this moss, and they use the moss to brew this tea that they sort of get high on, right? It's a very mild high, but they're gathering this moss, and then you would have the player characters show up, and then you'd have a reaction table. So something that like an old school role-playing game, or a game that's like really focused more on emergent gameplay, is going to have a reaction table. So it's going to put a lot more responsibility into the hands of the game master. So let's say, as an example, you were to roll on this reaction table, and it turns out, well, the kobolds are friendly. So it'd be like, okay, well, that just opened up a whole lot of other opportunities here. Maybe these kobolds who are gathering this moss are already high. They're like, hey, who are these guys? Maybe they've never seen humans before, and they're, or, you know, elves and dwarves and things like that. They've only seen kobolds before. Maybe they're curious. So nothing is set in stone what's going to happen. Now, could combat still break out? Of course. Of course it could happen. But the fact that it isn't just set in stone, which is what is, you know, a modern approach, really opens up a lot of different avenues. And one of the things I have mentioned in the past, when people talk about getting started in role-playing games back in the 70s and 80s, that's one of the things that people remember so much that made a real impact on them, is the way that the games embraced emergent play. And really, it's not something that they consciously did. It was just, okay, so we have different random tables and that. That's something else I should have to point out, is the fact that emergent play does not need random tables. I think that's another misconception that, you know, you will see a lot of releases that come out that are pretty much being touted as old school themed, will have all these different random tables, and that's fine. I personally find that to be a little underwhelming at the game table itself, because as a game master, I like to at least have kind of an idea, as opposed to, well, okay, I'm going to roll everything randomly as the adventure continues along. But you don't necessarily need to have random tables to experience emergent gameplay. What you do need to do is take into account the actions of the player characters and have consequences to them. That's very, very important. And like I said, one of the reasons why, you know, old timers remember games that took place 50 years ago, 45 years ago, is mainly because of that. And I've talked about how there's a session or two of Massive Nyarlathotep that I ran, that Elliot, my best friend, who has an awful memory, can still regale you with. And none of that was in Massive Nyarlathotep. It's all stuff that just was getting pulled out of a hat, and it was just flowing with what was going on with Elliot, his nephew Paul, and our friend Ed, as far as, you know, just riffing on what they were doing and responses from the NPCs and stuff like that. So that is something that you hear people talk about a lot. I got to be honest, maybe I'm wrong, but I think a lot of the modern adventures that are like really, really heavily plotted, we were talking about this last night, like the GUI Cube stuff, where the publisher himself is saying, hey, you got to just kick back and just go with the ride. Really? To me, that's not memorable. Now, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe players experience those sorts of things where they're told what their characters are doing and such, and they have a memorable experience. But be honest, I don't think that's going to be the case. All right, so let's jump over to chat real quick. We'll get back to the topic in just a moment. Some discussion about those kobolds. And yes, there are people saying, yeah, they're friendly because they're high. See? Yeah. Kevin R. Smith has popped on in, said, this begs the question of whether emergent play has to also be procedural. I don't think so. I don't think it has to be procedural. Little Britain's like, hey, man, you want to try some stuff? Sharing the mushrooms. All right. Danny Gable says they're most friendly when they're mildly high. Yeah, because they haven't hit that paranoia stage, right? Jeff Woody Art is joining us once again from, I believe it's South Korea. Welcome aboard. Stray Kismet says, had to teach the difference between Gonzo and random number generation questing. Gonzo can get weird, sure, but RGN, you stop every 4 seconds, and the DM didn't do the homework. Kevin R. Smith, I'd say you can have emergent play without reaction rolls. Right. Oh, yeah, of course. It says any campaign where the GM preps situations instead of a story and changes the situation in response to the players is emergent play. Some people would disagree with you on that. I think more along the lines of like video game designers, but because I've actually had people tell me, now I don't know if I don't necessarily agree with them, but I've had them tell me that you can't have emergent play if you have situations planned out, which I don't necessarily agree with. It's when you have situations planned out and you as the game master are immobile in any changes you would make to that, regardless of the player's actions through their player characters. That's a problem. I would think that would be a major issue. But, you know, having an idea of, okay, well, so if my group does this, this would be the reaction. If they do this, this is what's going to happen. I think that's pretty close to emergent gameplay. But yeah, as long as the game is taking into account what the player characters do, to me, like people talk about like sandbox. I don't necessarily think that a sandbox setting has to be present for emergent play. I think you can have a setting that's not just, you know, go off and do whatever you want. We're not talking like the West Marshes. So, let's see. Yeah, there you go. Agile Monk says, with a $4.99 super chat, Jeff teaches emergent play to mildly high kobolds. Best stream ever. See, yes, Little Britain points out it's the stuff that happens off script that's most memorable. I completely agree. I would also say that not every game is going to be well suited for emergent play or be better suited to certain levels of emergent play. Just like I've had people tell me that, you know, as game masters, they had absolutely zero idea in mind. They talk about, well, you know, the no prep dungeon masters, game masters out there, and how, you know, everything they did was on the fly. So it was all emergent gameplay. How well was it done though? That's what I'm kind of curious about. And that's why I think that a lot of the no prep is a lot of BS, because you got to have some sort of prep. You have to have an idea. of what you're looking to do as a game master to really create a memorable session, right? I mean, that's how I look at it. I mean, I could be absolutely wrong. I mean, I'm sure there are people out there who are quick enough and just on top of things enough to just be like, yeah, okay, sure, you guys want to play some Pirate Borg? Yeah, okay, I'll run some Pirate Borg. And just everything is off the top of their heads. But for the most part, I don't think the majority of people out there are like that. Oh, yeah, there you go. Little Britain points out an example of sandboxy but hardly emergent is the Dragonlance series of adventures. Any sort of role-playing game campaign that has a meta plot is usually not going to allow for a lot of leeway with the player's actions. That's why, like, the concept of Torg Eternity, or Torg before that, is really cool. The actual execution of it, where everything has to fit into this plot line and certain things are just happening no matter what the player characters do two things. One, they make the players feel like their characters don't matter in the great scheme of things, because no matter what they do has no effect on the overall storyline. And I also think that I think it also kind of takes the spotlight away from the players too, and makes it more like, well, the spotlight's on the game master as opposed to the players. Kevin R. Smith said, which Dragonlance modules were sandboxes? I heard they were all straight railroads. I've never read any of them, so I don't know myself. But I have heard from people who did play in some of those Dragonlance adventures who told me that it's like your player characters are guest stars for the main event, or that the player characters are doing something that's peripheral to like main storyline events from Dragonlance that I guess the player characters get to hear about or learn about like secondhand because they're off doing the less exciting things. So yeah, so as far as emergent play goes, it is not plotted. I think it's situational is how I always looked at it. So if you take a look at older D&D modules, or you can look at even new stuff like the old school essentials adventures that come out, very situational. So you'll get a keyed area, keyed map, whatever dungeon, what have you. And then each of the locations, you're going to have a keyed entry that's going to tell you what's there. Maybe there's nothing. Maybe it's just all broken furniture in one room. But for the most part, when you encounter other creatures, you're told what they're in the middle of doing, not exactly what their plans are to do to the characters when they show up. And that's one of the reasons why the like reaction tables, I think, add nicely to emergent gameplay. Now, not always, and you don't necessarily need to use them all of the time. It's like, oh yeah, the zombie is starving. Oh, he wants to be best friends. Well, no, that wouldn't make any sense. Jeff Woody Hart says that the player characters are the weekly guest stars, a la The Love Boat, with Gavin MacLeod. Yes. Kevin R. Smith says the FR Avatar Trilogy modules, on the other hand, railroaded you into watching Elminster and Midnight Save the Realms while you watched pointlessly. Oh, Forgotten Realms Avatar Trilogy. More modules I am not overly familiar with. I'll be very, very honest. In case you forget, I didn't really follow D&D much. From about 82 on through like towards the end of 4th edition. Yeah, I'd see things here and there. Or maybe I'd pick up a book and check it out. But so a lot of the like 2nd edition AD&D modules out there, I have no clue. I have no idea. I have used, what is it now? Sunless Citadel, if I remember correctly. I think it's for 3rd edition with Meepo. Meepo, the kobold. I'm Meepo. Yes, that is my Meepo voice. Who met a pretty horrifying end. I remember I freaked. I don't mean freaked, but I really surprised my nephew Cameron, his girlfriend at the time, and one of his friends who were playing when Meepo got killed by the is it like a dragonette? That they're thinking, oh yeah, it's he's like its keeper. It's gonna, you know, be friends with him, and kills him. Straight Kismet says Gloomhaven's kind of emergent. They tell you to rip up cards and stuff. It's like $100 box set. Not doing that. Well, Gloomhaven is, I'm trying to remember what the exact term for it is. Oh, legacy. Gloomhaven's a legacy game. It's a legacy board game. Just like Pandemic Legacy. There are some Risk games that came out. I don't know if they still do that, but they had some Risk games where it was like, you know, based on the result of one game, you had, you know, little envelopes you could open up, and then you tore stuff up. And yeah, I'm not much into that either. It's like, I paid good money for this. I don't know if I want to destroy it. Chris Lundgren's joined us in chat. Says, I love how an RPG goes off the rails and becomes even better. Let your players surprise you. Oh, yeah. Straight Kismet said their players always shot Meepo. Don't they encounter Meepo sleeping? See, once again, situational, right? So this is emergent play. Even in a 3rd edition Dungeons and Dragons adventure, where it's not telling you how everything's going to react. So, and it's not trying to pigeonhole the players into doing specific things, which you'll also see in Adventures 2, where there is the illusion of free choice. But as a prime example, as game masters out there, you've probably had situations where no matter what the player characters decided to do, that the end result would remain the same, right? Well, you guys are going to end up in that truck. Doesn't matter how we go about doing this. So, yeah, that's the illusion of choice, or steering your players into certain decisions. And that Captain Infinity Time Travel Police is with us. So Little Britain says, they never liked the setting in the first place. How do you justify all that magic and still have a medieval feel? I felt like everywhere they would look like Thay. So, you know, I tried checking out, and this is no offense to Tracy Hickman and Margaret Weiss. I tried to check out some of the Dragonland stuff. It just didn't grab me. It's kind of like, yeah, okay. And I think in a lot of ways, there's a lot of nostalgia for Dragonlance because people grew up on it. You know, we have the rose-colored glasses that we tend to put on as far as our nostalgic feelings. There's loads of things that I was like, oh man, that was great when I was younger. And now it's like, what am I, nuts? It's like I remember this is in high school even, and Elliot was a big Starsky and Hutch fan. And I remember we were at his house one night and reruns of Starsky and Hutch came on. And he was like, how the hell did I like this show? The hell was wrong with me? Same thing with like later Miami Vice, right? It's like, oh yeah, oh Friday night, man, you gotta be home to watch Miami Vice. And you'll see like a rerun of Miami Vice someplace and you're like, seriously? This is so over the top. Little Britain says Dragonlance was YA and didn't necessarily age well. All right. Anyway, any other thoughts as far as emergent play from folks out there in chat? If you're watching after the fact on Memorex, by all means, share your thoughts as well. But to me, I think emergent play really hinges on not having a plot line that needs to be followed. It's quite all right to have like keyed locations with stuff going on and have those locations with, you know, some various different encounters in there. I mean, it's okay if you sit there and you have encounters with monsters and the monsters automatically attack the characters. There's no problem with that. The problem I've got is when every single encounter is like, oh, hey, we opened the door. Oh, getting attacked. Little Britain says, love the Jan Hammer music. Yeah, I actually had the, I think it was a cassette of it. Daryl Eretz with us, Off the Rails Emergent. We set out for the mega dungeon, but before we got there, we stole a pirate ship and discovered a mysterious island. GM says it wasn't in the module. There you go. Right, exactly. Because the game master, even though they had an idea, they were using a prepared module, a published module or something like that. They rolled with the decisions that the players were making for the characters. That's emergent play. Yes, completely. So, all right. Anyway, so that is it for this time out. No, actually, you know what? I should once again mention emergent play is not just an old school Renaissance concept. Any role-playing game, any modern role-playing game, any role-playing game from the past can be used to create emergent gameplay. Some better than others. Like I said, like Call of Cthulhu. Call of Cthulhu doesn't unlock as much emergent gameplay as other role-playing games would. But then again, it's a horror role-playing game. There's a reason why. So don't need that. You don't need random tables. As Kevin R. Smith pointed out, you don't need reaction tables. Although I dig using reaction tables. I don't use reaction tables for every single encounter. So it is not something that's only specifically tailored to specific sort of games, like old school Essentials or Osric or original Dungeons and Dragons, stuff like that. You can still have emergent play with Pathfinder 2nd Edition, with Dungeons and Dragons 2024, all of that. It's just an approach to the game that is going to allow for the emergent play. Little Britain says they actually waited 7 sessions to insert Isle of Dread into Sinister Secrets of Saltmarsh. Nice. Very cool. So Stray Kismet says you guys are so much better than the Shoggoth in the basement. Chris Lindgren said, did he say Osric? Yes, I mentioned Osric. I mention Osric every once in a while. I wouldn't mind getting my hands on 3.0 in print. So anyway, all right. But yeah, before I wrapped up, I did want to mention that there is that misconception Emergent gameplay is only like old school. No, absolutely not. Just about any role-playing game can incorporate Emergent gameplay. All right, so if you tuned in a little bit late, there will not be a show on Tuesday next week. Might actually go out of town for a couple of days to go bumming around. I haven't decided for sure yet, but because it's the holiday weekend, I'm taking an extra day off myself from doing the show. So I will be back on Wednesday. Now, that doesn't mean that you aren't going to have reviews popping up, because I do have some things planned to get out there, including, if I could pull it off, the Trials of Soderman supplement for the Lord of the Rings role-playing, which is actually Hands of the White Wizard for the One Ring. Same plot line and everything. This is just statted, of course, obviously enough, for the One Ring. And this is Lord of the Rings role-playing, which uses 5e. So stay tuned for that. Might have the Northland sagas, I should say, review up. Might even have the Purple Planet from Goodman Games up too. So let's see what happens. So yeah, Shazam 85, you won the trivia. So didn't you catch that? During the brief intermission, I said, yep, it is. It's heavy water. So, of course, as always, now Shazam 85 has won previously. All you had to do, send an email to Jeff McAleer at thegaminggang.com, and I will shoot you a link to your PDF. In fact, Chris Lundgren won last night. Did not get an email. Oh, there you go. He's going to email me about that. Yep, that's cool. Very nice. Very nice. All right, everybody. That's it for this time out. If you're watching live, thank you very kindly. If you watched live and took part in chat, hey, get a tip of the cap, because not only are you keeping me company, you're keeping each other company while I'm sharing the news and pontificating about a topic. But of course, I know a lot of folks out there, you don't have an opportunity to watch live. Doesn't matter if you're watching live or on Memorex. Thank you for taking time out of your busy life to watch any of the videos here on the Gaming Gang channel. And of course, when you're not watching videos here on the channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in tabletop gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more you are never going to find here on YouTube. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. If you like the video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ring that bell. And if you ring the bell, be sure to select all notifications, because YouTube is supposed to not only notify you when the dispatch streams live Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings right here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Central. It's also supposed to let you know when I share other videos, such as my recent review of Call of Cthulhu, Clockwork and Claws, 2 scenarios for Pulp Cthulhu from Chaosium Inc. All right, everybody, enjoy the rest of your week. Have a great weekend. If you're here in the U.S., have a great holiday weekend. If you're traveling, be careful. I want to make sure everybody's back next Wednesday, hanging out with the gang once again. So once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. Thank you kindly for watching. And as always, I certainly hope all of you get to enjoy plenty of great gaming with your gang.